Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another rather fragmented but put together beautifully with my video editing software episode of Kvetching with Adam and Jarrod. We did, in fact, try to record this 2 days ago, this second part to this podcast, but Adam's internet flaked out. He has some shabby local company and refuses to change to AT&T or a more reliable internet source, but we won't go there. So we are making another attempt today to record this, and as with the other episode that we once recorded when we were splicing things together, we have drawn attention to the outfits that we were wearing so people could understand the temporal dimension to this episode, the going back and forth between different clips. To make matters easier for those who have trouble following the script, but that's not our fans. We have a very erudite audience. We decided to color coordinate our shirts today. So we are both wearing red, which means the red outfits are the latter portion of this podcast.
It also means that both Jarrod and I could end up dying today because you're not supposed to wear red shirts. If anything, Star Trek has taught us is that red shirts always die, except for Scotty. He's the only red shirt that lives.
But I don't have a little thingy on my shirt.
Well, I have a U.S. flag.
Okay, well, I make sure to not wear my shirt with the Star Trek emblem on it.
It doesn't matter whether the Star Trek emblem is on there or not. The red shirts always die.
Okay, we're also recording.
So live long and prosper.
We're also recording on Tisha B'Av, and I have to say I haven't eaten yet today, though I did have a cup of coffee. Have you eaten today?
Yes, I did.
Well, there you go. Okay, I might have sinned in the Star Trek universe, but you have sinned before, Hashem. So yeah, we are recording this on Tisha B'Av, but you're allowed to work on Tisha B'Av as far as I understand it, so that isn't an issue. The other reason we're recording is because both of us failed to shave last time, so we thought we were going to rectify the situation, and as you can see, I have a face as smooth as a baby's bottom, whereas Adam has decided to grow out the beard because maybe he's converting to Islam. Is that the case?
Well, no, I've decided that I'm gonna become, an Orthodox rabbi or a Hasidic rabbi and have a good big bushy beard. So this is the beginning of it. So
then that would presuppose
my journey to Orthodox becoming an Orthodox rabbi begins with me eating a bagel this morning.
Okay, I'm going to eat a bagel after this, actually, a Montreal bagel. So I'm doing my part as a Jew. I still have about 6 left in the freezer. Yeah. Anyways, this episode is tentatively titled Wikipedia's War Against the Jews, and we recorded a part well over a month ago outlining our relentless struggle to get Omer Bartov marked as a Schmegegge, and this has nothing to do with our use of a rather irreverent Yiddish-ish term in the English language, but rather, as we have argued, Wikipedia's campaign against Zionism and perhaps the Jewish community and their identity in general. So we are recording the second part because this has gone further, and it has come to our attention that Wikipedia has taken a rather duplicitous stand on the alleged genocide.
By the way, you know that Peter Beinart's page still has the Schmegegge of the Year award on there, but that could be because nobody's bothered to really look. And he doesn't care, maybe.
He doesn't care. Bartov is a fragile little academic, I mean, he's supposed to, he has to maintain his public image. But he's a damn Israeli. They're supposed to have tougher skin than this.
You would think so, yeah.
Yeah. So in any case, Adam plans on shaving before the end of this episode. Whether he's keeping a Star Trek shirt on remains to be certain. I'm not going to leave the house wearing red since Adam has forewarned me that might be a problem.
Yeah, I would avoid that. Yeah. Okay. So, but we both live in red states, though, so that it's appropriate.
Yes, except I'm not voting for the red people in power in my state, so I should be wearing blue. In any case, let's not talk American politics.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about this Wikipedia issue then.
Okay, well, first, now we are going to go back to our original clip, and we will return shortly in our red shirts to finish up with a few words on the alleged genocide in Gaza and Wikipedia's role in propagating this allegation. The Omer Bartov Wikipedia saga continues. And I guess Adam and I have both, to quote Sasha, the twerp, implicated ourselves.
Right.
And I am now banned from editing Wikipedia. You?
Right. Are you I haven't been banned from editing Wikipedia, but But what's happened though, ultimately, is that we've been banned from editing Omer Bartov's page.
Yeah.
So, in fact, everyone's been banned from editing Omer Bartov's page. They've decided that they're going to close it to the public being able to get in there and edit. And so only their own insiders are allowed to edit Omer Bartov's
Well,
page.
Adam, I mean, Omer Bartov is a delicate genius. God forbid we disturb the schedule of the delicate genius.
True. Yeah, right. So basically, to make a long story short,
Do you think he makes more than Ted Danson?
um, I suppose that no, I don't think so. No, no, I think Ted Danson in his prime anyway made quite a lot more than Omer Bartov.
Because I couldn't live knowing that Omer Bartov makes more than Ted Danson.
Yeah, I know it's sick, isn't it? But what's also sick is what's happened with Wikipedia here. The public has been censored. This
Yeah,
is actually censorship taking place at Wikipedia, which is supposed to be a hub of public information.
yeah, and we have a smoking gun here, multiple smoking guns actually. And just as a little prelude to this, it's been widely claimed that Wikipedia has an anti-Israel and perhaps anti-Jewish bias. Over the last few days, a number of incidents cropped up. Wikipedia has now listed the ADL as unreliable when it comes to discussing anti-Semitism. Okay, so the organization that was initially founded to support Jews being attacked in the United States, it was founded on the heels of the Leo Frank case, right? Was that it? Talked about
Yeah.
it previously. Yeah, so the ADL is now considered to be not a legitimate space to go to or a resource to go to for learning about anti-Semitism, for reading about anti-Semitism in this country, because they do condemn anti-Semitism from the left. And obviously, there is a contingent of people for whom that is inexcusable, that they're claiming that criticism of the Israeli government is being alarmingly shouted from the rooftops as a form of anti-Semitism. So ADL, according to Wikipedia, not reliable. Following up on that, a friend of mine in our network sent me the Zionism page from Wikipedia, which I haven't had a chance to read over carefully, and they asked me to go in and edit it because there are a lot of mischaracterizations in there. I politely declined because that would require a lot of work on my part, and then the anti-Zionists at Wikipedia would just hit the undo button afterwards. And now that I am banned, that's not even an option anymore. So I'm going to turn on screen share here, and we're going to show a couple of the snapshots in time over what happened.
There you go. Let me add before we do that. Prior to a week ago, I didn't actually believe that Wikipedia was anti-Zionist or anti-Jewish. That wasn't my assumption at the time. I assumed that it was very pro-establishment, like whatever the establishment thinking is on anything, and anything that deviates away from the establishment's perspective is banned on there. It's not allowed. And the founder of Wikipedia, in an interview he gave a couple of years ago, seemed to support that. Right, that what is turned into now is a place where only the approved opinions of the establishment are allowed to be on there. In the old days, before these changes were made, when it was first founded, you were allowed to have a very diverse array of viewpoints placed on there, and it would be organized, in a way that readers would understand that what they were reading was something like, one perspective, but it's not necessarily every way of looking at it. And that is essentially what we tried to do with Omer Bartov's page, right? We didn't go in there and say that he's wrong, right? We didn't, change it to, this guy is wrong on the following issues. What we essentially did is we went in there and we created a criticism tab, right? That leads to criticism that has been lodged at Omer Bartov from Norman Goda, who we've had on the show, Jeffrey Herf, in their Quillette article. Granted, in their defense, the problem with the Quillette article was that it was paywalled, that you had to actually pay to read Quillette.
Oh, I didn't
But
think about that. Okay, that's
that could have been a factor. I don't know. I actually, at this point, don't give them the benefit
okay.
of.
Wait a sec. No, but I cited the New York Times as well, and that's also paywalled. right? I'd like
Okay,
to do a New
all
York
right.
Times article,
But you could cite the New York Times on Wikipedia,
I know, but that's also paywalled, right?
I
If
know,
you're not a
okay, well,
subscriber.
maybe it's a stupid reason then. But then the JSEN link is it's not paywalled. Anybody can go and read it, right? So
And we're just as important as those other two magazines we
right,
mentioned.
yeah, and we'll
Yeah.
get to all that in a minute.
Yeah, but well, let's
Yeah,
just be
yeah.
honest though and admit that we originally went into just list an award that he won, the Schmegegge of the Year award, which was removed as it was from Peter Beinart's page. So I decided that it would be best to implement that in conjunction with criticism of their
Right.
views, legitimate criticism, and they won an award for it, as you've seen in our previous episode if you watched it, and you guys should watch it if you've not watched it. So let me turn on screen share. And I will show you the different snapshots in time over what's been happening.
Yeah, there was originally the Schmegegge of the Year award listed under his accolades.
Yeah, so the original adjustment we made was under awards. We added the Schmegegge of the Year award
I
right
can
here.
sort of understand why they would not want that.
Yeah,
On
okay.
the other hand, if you go to actors and actresses Wikipedia pages, under their accolades, it'll say things like Golden Raspberry Awards.
Oh, it was
And
over here. Yeah, here under selected
yeah,
honors and
and the
awards.
Schmegegge of the Year Award, as I've said on I think one of the previous episodes of this podcast, is basically an academic version of a Razzie.
Yeah,
Right?
we may not be able to compete with the Alexander von Humboldt fellowship, but what can you do?
Yes.
So we decided to create a criticism section, and here is the one that I wrote. This is the second variation of it. I added an opening sentence here, since there was no criticism paragraph, and there really should be, given the pushback he's received from far more people than just the two of us. Omer Bartov's position on the Israeli-Palestinian conflict has not gone unchallenged. His claim that Israel's actions in Gaza after October 7th, a Hamas attack, constitute genocidal intent, has generated significant pushback from other scholars in Jewish studies. Holocaust historians Norman Goda and Jeffrey Herf say that Bartov and several other academics are exploiting their credentials and identities to push their views, despite lack of evidence. They are, quote, Jews and Israelis to boot, intentionally or not, their credentials provide an imprimatur, good word, to those eager to accuse Israel of perpetrating genocide. Goda and Herf wrote in Colette. The Jewish
And Goda and Herf are not just a couple of schlemiels off the street.
like
Goda,
us.
right, exactly. Goda and Herf are very distinguished historians.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And Herf is one of the leading specialists on anti-Semitism emanating from the Arab world, right? He's an expert on that subject.
Now, I'm sure that the Wikipedia editors have no idea who they are.
Of course not.
Right.
And I guess they don't know who we are either. Or maybe they do, maybe that's the problem. The Jewish Studies Zionist Network, an organization of, quote, experts in Jewish studies with a commitment to the peace and welfare of all communities in Israel, contends that Israel has gone to great lengths to avoid harming non-combatants, and accordingly, it is ludicrous to suggest there is any genocidal intent behind Israel's very targeted mission against Hamas. Israel understands that the Palestinian people are just as much the victims of Hamas's long reign of terror as Jews are. Because of his views and criticism he has received from his colleagues, the Jewish Studies Zionist Network gave him the 2023 Schmegegge of the Year award.
Okay, let me ask you this, Jarrod. Is there anything in that paragraph that is inaccurate?
Nothing. Though people might claim we can't be a serious organization if we're bestowing awards called the Schmegegge on people.
Look, it's not up to Wikipedia to decide whether or not we should call our award that, right? That is what we call our award. That is what we call, it's not really an award. It's a public statement that we put out in the form of a joke, right? Basically.
Well, we
right?
do have a nice trophy picture that,
Yeah, all right. That's what we do. It's a stopantisemitism.org does the same kind of deal with their Anti-Semite of the Year award. It's not really an award. It's a public statement that is being issued by an organization. That's what we're doing. Now,
maybe we should give Wikipedia the Schmegegge of the Year award this year.
I think we should. Let's consider that. But anyway, so the fact of the matter is this. Omer Bartov's position on the conflict has not gone unchallenged. That's true. Goda and Herf did write this article in Quillette. That's true, right? And it's sourced. We have a proof of this with a footnote. And the Jewish Studies Zionist Network is an organization of experts of Jewish studies with a commitment to peace and welfare of all communities in Israel. That's true, right?
Sasha the Twerp said we're a bunch of trolls.
All right, fine. They could say that. He could say that if they want. But
or rather, I'm a troll, and I've implicated all these other people in my trollish behavior.
that could be, and I would be troll number one. And so it's true that JSEN has given this guy the Schmegegge of the Year award in 2023. There's nothing inaccurate. It's all a fact.
We could have inserted a paragraph on the fact that he looks the same upside down as right side up, and that would have been accurate as well.
That's a fact too.
Yeah, yeah, we could have done that, and I would if we weren't.
But I mean, look, that I guess is a you know, a subjective opinion. But everything that we had in there is a fact.
Yeah, and then with the whole revision history, when I went and put it back, this is what I wrote in my comments. The section I added is legitimate public criticism of Bartov's use. Removing it constitutes censorship and presenting him in a distorted manner. I'm putting it back, and I will complain if it is removed again. Well, that didn't seem to bother them at all. So they went ahead and took it off. And then once I was banned, I had Adam go in and do it. And Adam made a very, I don't know if wise is the right word, but a shrewd decision to just test them out here to see if Schmegegge was the trigger word. And he kept everything in there, but changed the final sentence to read, because of his views and criticism he has received from his colleagues, the Jewish Studies Zionist Network issued a public statement in disagreement. Oh, you forgot the word with here, with what he says. Or I think you went back and put it back. Okay, so this is with what he said, with what he has said. Okay, so we remove the word Schmegegge. There's nothing, quote, triggering or silly, or irreverent, or ribald, to use another synonym, in this post. But they still took it off. They took it off once again. And here's the rub. I think this is the first time I've used that expression ever in speech. They took it off, but they also decided to add something. This is where his political views section ended prior to this. It just talked about the August 2023 elephant in the room statement, which we did record a podcast on, talking about apartheid, but it said nothing about the current war. And I guess the powers that be at Wikipedia decided that it was necessary to say something about the current war in Gaza. So they added one sentence, allegedly a summary of what we put in, according to another revision comment that was placed in the Wikipedia history. Relating to the Israel-Hamas war, he has stated that Israel has repeatedly expressed genocidal intent against the Palestinians in the Gaza Strip.
And then they locked the page. So the public is no longer permitted to go in there and make changes.
Yeah. So I looked into the backlog because it was the same person, the same user over and over again who was making the edits for me, and I wanted to figure out who the hell this guy was.
Get to that. Let me just point one thing out, that the page is now worse than it was before we went in there and put in the criticism.
Yeah, because we actually presented both sides. We actually had a quote.
We made it a neutral page about Omer Bartov. Now it is even more biased than it was before.
Yeah, because it leaves things standing on his word about genocide, which is unacceptable. So username Make and Toss is the one who kept editing my revisions, and he is a senior editor and is entitled to display this Rhodium editor star. Okay, good for him. And he's created 140 articles. Now it turns out he's won a number of awards. Maybe we should give him the Schmegegge of the Year.
We think about that too.
We don't know who the hell he is though. He won the Jordan Barn Star of National Merit, something bestowed in Amman, Jordan. I don't know what any of this means, but so he has a Jordanian connection. Here he won a Hashemite Barn Star. Is Wikipedia based in Jordan or something? So I don't know what the hell this is. Barn Star has to have something to do with Wikipedia, I think. So getting him onto, okay, for bringing King Hussein to Washington Post, I think WP is Washington Post, and getting him on today's front page. Well done, someone else wrote. He's won all these other awards, the Million Award, the Tireless Contributor, Barnstar. You've been contributing to the Israeli-Hamas war article for more than 200 days now. Keep up the neutrality. We should probably check out his article to see if it is in fact neutral. And good work. Cheers. Someone named Abo Yemen praised him. So here's Abo Yemen's praise, and he's the guy who runs the Wiki Project Yemen. And this is some sort of neutral arbiter of Wikipedia articles. And I'm very skeptical about the whole thing here. So he's written a lot about the Israel-Hamas war. I think we do need to look at this article and see what it has to say. Okay, so here is the Israel-Hamas Wikipedia, war hit Wikipedia page, which I will repeat, has been edited by some of the people who've been, quote, editing our own Bartov page. And Adam and I took a quick look at this, and we're not going to bore you, dear listener, with all the fine print and details, but this is unquestionably biased against Israel in almost every respect.
Absolutely.
And note over here, there is a lock on it. So nobody could actually go in here and edit these changes. And there were a couple of things that really struck out as being egregious to us.
Look, I understand why they have to lock it, right? Because if you didn't, then every single second there would be editing wars going on, right?
Yeah.
So there has to be some kind of gatekeeper, right? But the gatekeepers need to be more neutral than they are here. This is blatantly biased against Israel.
Yeah.
In particular against the Netanyahu government.
Now, this entire background section talks about, Hamas or Palestine under Israeli occupation, and says very little about the terrorism that the Palestinians have committed against Israel, going back to the Second Intifada, if not earlier. I mean, this piece goes back to the 6-Day War. I mean, obviously they have to mention that, but still. So
it's nothing about the fact that after the disengagement from Gaza, Israel allowed the Fatah-led Gazan government free reign of movement, right? There was a treaty between the two governments allowing free movement of in and out, and Gaza even had an airport and a seaport and all of that, right? None of this is mentioned, right? Just skips over that very important fact.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. No, it's oppression.
It did not become
Binary of oppressors and oppression.
It did not become a quote unquote open air prison, quote unquote, until after Hamas started waging war against Israel, and they made it clear that they were not going to abide by the treaty.
Yeah, and it says Hamas has been designated a terrorist organization, so I'm glad that they mentioned that. But I mean, it's clear that Wikipedia is not doing the designation, but that it has been designated one. So why can't we say that someone's been designated the Schmegegge of the Year award? I don't see a difference here.
Well, I mean, these are actually countries, but the thing about the UN we'll get to in a little while, but
Hamas motivations. Okay, these are the motivations of Hamas: restrictions on the movement of Palestinians, imprisonment of thousands of Palestinians. Taco's response to what he called the desecration of the Al-Aqsa Mosque. Israeli occupation maintains its siege on the Gaza Strip and continues its crimes against our Palestinian. Okay, how the hell is this up here? Well, I mean, it's a quote, fine, but still, I mean, there's no challenge to this whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
Despite the October 7th attacks emanating from the Gaza Strip, most of the reasons Dave gives for the attack were events in the West Bank and Jerusalem, such as the Israeli settler violence and the expansion of the Israeli settlements, right? It has to keep bringing back the Israeli crimes. The Israeli occupation has seized thousands of dunams of Palestinian territory and uprooted Palestinian citizens from their homes and land to build illegal settlements while providing cover for colonial settlers to rampage through Palestinian towns, villages, and attacks terrorize the Palestinian citizens. Now, given that the language used here to describe events that are, or to describe realities that are true is deeply problematic, there should be a counter position that is expressed here, and there isn't. I mean, but they leave this as being fact. And it maybe thousands of dunams that were Palestinian have ended up in Israeli hands. I'm quite certain that has. But this whole idea of illegal settlements, there has to be some sort of explanation here about why it's okay to use the term illegal and whether it's okay or not, right? Not everyone will agree on that. And here again, colonial settlers. You can't use the word colonial as if it's fact here. It might be in the form of a quotation, but you do need to present the other side. You can't just leave it at that. It's completely wrong.
And also, they go on to say a likely additional motive of Hamas was because of the Abraham Accords gaining momentum. That's true, but Wikipedia should not be saying that, they should not be conjecturing. They should instead quote a person that suggests that it is a motive.
Yeah, so they didn't provide a quote here.
Right.
Long-term goals of Hamas, so at least they mentioned the 1988 charter, and charter lays out aims that are anti-Semitic and, quote, genocidal. Well, here they use the quotation marks for Hamas for genocidal. In 2017, Hamas replaced its old charter with a new one that removed anti-Semitic language and stated that its struggle was with the Zionists, not the Jews. However, the revised charter did not formally repudiate or revoke the other charters, which means that they're binding as far as I'm concerned, saying that it is not a substitute for its founding charter. However, the new charter indicates that Hamas will accept the peace agreements only provisionally without relinquishing a claim to the entirety of Palestine nor recognizing Israel. I'm glad they mentioned that at least. The attack was also seen as a resolution of internal tensions within Hamas. That's why the group's main goal is governing the Gaza Strip or fighting against Israel.
This is pro-Hamas propaganda in the guise of an encyclopedic discussion of the conflict. That's really all.
Israeli policy. Benjamin Netanyahu has been Israel's prime minister for an entire 15-year period.
What does that have to do with anything?
Well, the Netanyahu government has been criticized within Israel for having championed a policy of empowering the Hamas government in Gaza. For instance, by granting work permits to Gazan residents, facilitating the transfer of funds to Hamas, and maintaining relative calm.
But
do you understand this?
That's only one side. That's not a fact.
But I don't.
Okay, it's true that the Netanyahu government has been criticized for that. That's true.
For giving work permits to Palestinians?
For what? I'm sorry?
For giving work permits to Palestinians.
Yeah, that's been a criticism that has been made.
Right? By who?
By insiders in Israel.
Okay, people to the right.
It's critics. Yeah, people. Yeah.
Okay, but it's making it sound like this is a sin as far as the left, the pro-Palestinian team is concerned, because they've empowered Hamas, and everyone knows Hamas is bad guys, and it's Israel's fault that Hamas has so much power. It's making it sound like giving these workers permits was a strategy to empower Hamas. Now, Israel's often been accused of funding Hamas. That goes back to the 80s.
It's a really complicated Israel's policy, and the politics surrounding it is so complicated. You can't do it justice in one paragraph. You can't do it justice in one Wikipedia article, right? Whole books are written on the subject, right? So I really take exception to the way in which they zoom in just simply on the things that they want to highlight that make it look as if the Netanyahu government is doing something shady, and is directly responsible for this conflict.
That's the problem. I mean, they're giving work permits to people who are living in an quote open air prison. Wouldn't that be something that people who are left of us should be happy about? The complaints about the humanitarian license. I mean, it's absurd. It's making it sound like there's some sort of nefarious plot to empower Hamas by giving Palestinians permits. It's nuts. It's absurd. These strategies towards Hamas have been criticized as backfired in light of the attacks of October 7th, blah, 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 blah. All right, I think we've basically not exhausted it, but I think I'm exhausted from demonstrating the numerous issues.
Little objectivity here at all. right? There's an attempt here and there to throw something in to make it look like it's, a true encyclopedic article on the subject, but this is definitely propaganda.
Well, with all due respect to the state of Yemen, I'm clearly suspicious of the guy who's in charge of Wikipedia Yemen being the person who curates the Israeli-Hamas war page. That's just me. Call it an opinion. Well, this has been an infuriating afternoon. We put a lot of time and effort to ensure that Omer Bartov got the recognition that he quite justifiably deserves, and people have undermined us. It's opened also another can of worms that we invite you viewers to explore further the anti-Israel bias on Wikipedia, and to see how far and how deep it extends, because it seems that there is something going on here which is not kosher. And we need to figure out what measures can be taken to rectify the situation, though I doubt there is anything that we can do.
I want to also say that it was suggested that maybe we post something in there instead of the JSCN Schmegegge of the Year Award, post something in there about what the Canary Mission is saying about Omer Bartov. And I frankly think that would have gone any.
No. I've never seen.
I've never seen
Mission.
Canary Mission on there, but we are different. JSCN is not the Canary Mission. Unlike the Canary Mission, we are not a faceless initiative, right? You know who we are. You know our names. We have our affiliations on there. There's over 200 people. Like, we put ourselves out there, unlike Canary Mission, right? So,
yeah, I mean, that's basically Canary Mission. Look, I mean, Canary Mission, while go back a decade, I would have spoken out vociferously against the idea of a website collecting information on professors. As an academic, that's something that, instinctively bothers all of us, and it should on a certain level, right? It's an act of McCarthyism, even if it's a non-governmental organization that's doing it. But I came to realize, first I explored Canary Mission very carefully. It's a very well-organized website. You have to give them credit for that, at least. And everything they've reported is truthful, right? They've taken tweets and public statements. They haven't planted people in anyone's classrooms or anything. Everything that they have are reports that are on the up and up that they've gathered on the internet. It's public information that they're using. And I've also come to realize
they're also selective. Like, they're not going to just put anyone into their database that is, accused of being an anti-Zionist.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there was some overreach going on for a while, I think, but they seem to have scaled back. Maybe it's just they can't handle the number of people who should be up there at this point, and they've limited themselves. Look, I mean, for instance, if you look at the Jewish studies professors who are up there, there's maybe 12 to 20. Like, there really aren't a lot, yet these statements have been signed by, let's say between 200 and 800 people, some of these statements, and half of which are just casual signatories, maybe even 2/3. But there's a hardcore, 80 to 150 people who sign these things that are very much working against Israel as part of their public activism and perhaps their scholarship as well, right? And they're not up there. So Canary Mission's either working very slowly or they're just not interested in casting a net very wide. Right, so you'll find people like the Schreier brothers up there who have been very public, or someone like Barry Trachtenberg, who's been very public and even testified before Congress against a bill condemning anti-Semitism. So, but that's just it. They don't really go much deeper into Jewish studies, for instance. You get none of that up there. So yeah, but at this point, I don't think Canary Mission is doing any sins. Nevertheless, we see from Wikipedia's perspective that they don't consider Canary Mission a site that's reliable for quoting, because I have yet to see a Canary Mission quote on any academic's website. And believe me, I do look up a lot of these people on Wikipedia, and I've never seen a quote from Canary Mission from people who do have profiles, or about people who do have profiles up on Canary Mission.
However, I do see criticism from the Southern Poverty Law Center placed on there against conservative individuals, right?
Yeah.
But when it comes to any criticism posted about someone on the left, they take it down, and that is what has happened here.
What are they going to do with the ADL now? I mean, do you know how many their pages must have quotes from the ADL on it about anti-Semites? Are they just going to change all those?
Probably, yeah.
Why would people want to read them if the ADL is an unreliable organization? Okay, well, here we are in part 2 of our episode. Red shirts, no facial hair, and we are going to
Still alive.
discuss.
We're still alive. We're still alive, even though we're wearing red shirts.
But we weren't wearing red shirts in part 1, so yeah. And I don't think I've gotten up from the seat between our recording sessions. So now we are going to put on screen share so we can get an idea of exactly what Wikipedia has been up to since we posted our first clip or first chunk of this episode. So allow me to turn on screen share. And here we go. I've gotten very quick with getting screen share set up. And this article, which from what I understand used to be titled Allegations of Genocide Against Israel. We probably could go to the edit history if we wanted to and really see the exact wording, but it was something more or less in that vein. We see that there is now an article called Gaza Genocide. Now, what does that suggest to you, Ed?
Well, it suggests to me that there was a genocide, or there is an ongoing genocide in Gaza, and that it's an objective truth, and that Wikipedia is going to tell us all about this objectively in a very matter-of-fact manner, and that there is no argument against it.
Right. And here we go. As we see, as we scroll down, everything that Adam has just suggested has proved untrue as far as Wikipedia goes. So they're being very hypocritical, and they're well aware that most people don't actually read the contents of articles. So this article is very much one-sided, but it does make clear, if you actually take the trouble to read most of it, that biased as it is against Israel, it does suggest that this is an accusation and has not been accepted universally by any means whatsoever, whereas people have accepted the Armenian genocide, aside from Turkey, as being universal.
Right, but there's very little in here about the defense of Israel and it's not being a genocide.
Oh, yeah, none whatsoever. None whatsoever.
There is a little bit, but very, very little.
Yeah. So this article is about genocide accusations against Israel. So right here in their opening sentence, they make it clear that the article is not really about a genocide in Gaza, right? So very dishonest. And then they have a whole bunch of other links to other stuff that is relevant to us. I've looked through some of it. There is one other Wikipedia page I will pull up afterwards just to contrast Wikipedia's decision to side with one party in this war against the other. So if we go scroll through it and we look at some of the things that I've highlighted here, legal definition of genocide. This is worth looking at for a minute because as a historian, I will have to admit that I have a problem with the term genocide, at least as originally conceived by Raphael Lemkin. And I will get into that in a second, but there is actually an official definition from 1948, so post-Holocaust from the Genocide Convention. And they specifically spell out that the acts in question include killing members of the group. Okay, well, obviously Israel's killing members of the targeted group. Nobody's going to debate that. Causing them serious bodily or mental harm. Okay. Imposing living conditions intended to destroy the group, preventing births, and forcibly transferring children out of the group. Is there any evidence Israel has done any of that?
No.
Yeah. I mean, this is unquestionably not true. And even with the first two, once you bring in the context, you see that this is far more, the byproduct of a war than with one group having more power than the other. I mean, no one's going to disagree that Israel does hold the upper hand in many respects in this conflict, but still, it's not what they're alleging here. But Israel is not forcibly transferring children out of the group, as happened in, let's say, a country like Canada, where they kidnapped hundreds, if not thousands, of Native American children to, quote, re-educate them and destroy Native American culture. This is not something that's here. And we know that the birth rate among the Palestinians has increased dramatically since 1948 and even 1967. 3 genocides in history have been recognized.
Also, there's all kinds of planning going on as far as the end game and what to do about the population of Gaza after this war is concluded. And there is a lot of thinking about what to do about, the children in Gaza. There's no effort whatsoever on the part of the Israelis to eradicate the Palestinians from Gaza and to destroy Palestinian culture there.
Right. No, there isn't. If they wanted to destroy Palestinian culture, there would be no Palestinian culture in Israel proper today among the 15 to 20% of the population who identify as Palestinians or Arabs in Israel or whatever they're calling themselves these days.
Right.
Right. Nobody's trying to.
There's no effort to Judaize Gaza. Like that's just not on the table.
Absolutely not. Right. And I've seen no evidence that if they plan on, if they're making it uninhabitable, they're not going to resettle the land with Israelis. I mean, that seems crazy. I mean, there might be some really far-right settlers who believe this is an act of a necessary act of taking back their biblical land, but I think they're a rather small percentage of the population. Now, other definitions of genocide, are important here. Raphael Lemkin's original definition is unfortunately very problematic, and in certain respects, Gaza or even the Israeli-Palestinian conflict might fall into his original definition because it's so expansive, to the point where virtually any act of ethnic cleansing could be considered a genocide. And ethnic cleansing doesn't require targeting the majority of the group in question, right? Ethnic cleansing requires the targeting of a collective people, a subset of a particular group. And that's why of all the Bosnian wars, it's only the Srebrenica one that's been officially recognized as a genocide. There were mass cleansing operations, and that's why the term was coined at that time. Hamas's mass ethnic cleansing operation of October 7th could be considered a genocide under Lemkin's definition. A perfect example with Lemkin's definition is the question as to whether the Poles suffered a genocide during World War II or not. And using Lemkin's definition, yeah, they did. But the Nazis had no intention of eradicating the Poles off the map. They made it clear they wanted to kill a certain percentage of them, probably in the vicinity of 10. They wanted to kill the intellectual class, the military class, the political class, anyone who were the guardians of Polish culture, to eradicate the Poles as a nation, and then perhaps enslave the rest. That's not genocide. That's something else. It might be cultural genocide, but it's not genocide, strictly speaking. So obviously his definition is not the one that took hold in any way, except in certain people's minds. So scholars have their own definition, but again, we see once again the perpetrator takes steps to prevent the group from surviving or reproducing in a given territory. Now, that has not been the case in Gaza, and certainly that is something that would require more than a number of months to really give a fair assessment of, and you can't possibly say that that's the case. We've had sufficient time to pass. So, judgment cannot be made in this case whatsoever. The colloquial understanding of genocide is heavily influenced by the Holocaust as its archetype and is conceived as innocent victims targeted for their ethnic identity rather than any political reason.
That is not happening in Gaza.
Sorry, go on.
That's not happening in Gaza either.
It's not happening, and the Holocaust is not a template for all genocides whatsoever, because unlike every other genocide in history, the Nazis, and I will say it again, was to wipe the Jews off the map of Europe, far beyond the borders of the Reich, right? And it's right there in the document from the Wannsee Conference, where they say, and I believe it was Heydrich who said, or maybe it was Eichmann, we're going to comb Europe from west to east, right? And they had Britain and Ireland even including on that, and they weren't taking over those places.
They meant literally comb it, with a comb, They said comb the desert in Spaceballs. It's very similar.
Yeah, I haven't seen Spaceballs in a long time, but that's a good. I'm glad you made that point.
Yeah.
So, yeah, no.
But in fairness, though, it doesn't say that the definition requires that there's a heavy influence from the Holocaust or that the Holocaust is the model. It says that it's the colloquial understanding.
Yeah, but again, if people are using the Holocaust as a colloquial understanding, here we get into all those Holocaust Nakba comparisons, and it's a major problem. It's an absolute major problem to do so. And on a certain level, it is trivializing the Holocaust or minimizing the Holocaust.
Right. All right. But the point of this video is to discuss the bias in the article, right?
Yeah. And that's what we're doing.
So we don't need to pick that apart any further. We all know that it's a bunch of hogwash.
Yeah.
So, okay. Invocations of Amalek.
I'll lay one thing out there, though. If we're going to use a template genocide, it's Armenian. The Armenian genocide is the perfect template genocide to use because it was to purge Turkish territory entirely of Armenian people. But what happened to them happens to them on the other side of the border is immaterial. And that would presuppose a eliminating all Palestinians from all the land between the river and the sea. That would have to, for it to fit the template genocide, that would have to be the case. All right, invocations of Amalek. Who are the Amalekites, Adam?
Well, they were the sworn enemies of the Jewish people, and Joshua was supposed to destroy them.
Why did they hate us so much? Do we know?
Well, that's an interesting question. But the Amalekites, though, are is a kind of a catch-all phrase that Jews have given to anybody who is an enemy of the Jewish people. And when that phrase is invoked, they don't always mean literally people that descended from Amalek.
Well, they taught me in elementary school that Hitler was descended from Amalek. My Hebrew
Right,
teachers,
which obviously is not true.
no, but I think my teachers actually believe that. Yes, in any case, it's repeatedly used. Isn't Amalek the first thing you write with a pen when you get a new pen to test it out and then you cross it out? Isn't that the Jewish custom?
Yeah, I think I remember that custom.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's Amalek. I know there was a custom of writing one of Israel's enemies. I'm pretty sure it's Amalek. Okay, so it's universally used in Jewish culture. I'm sure I have used the term very often, perhaps a little bit sardonically, but the point, or ironically, but the point is that it is something in common Jewish discourse, and it is really not uncommon. It wouldn't make any sense for an Israeli leader not to invoke it, right, with their biblical education and whatnot. So, but they've made a great deal about this with these quotes. That we're going to kill their oxen, their sheep, their camels, and their ass.
Yeah, but they're not referring to all Palestinians. They're referring to Hamas. They're referring to the terrorist groups that are sworn enemies of the Jewish people. And okay, so Isaac Herzog said something about, the blame has to go to the entire Palestinian nation and Gaza. I mean, that Wikipedia references that a little bit further up, that Herzog said that. But it doesn't that implication only really implies that the Palestinians voted for Hamas, right? And therefore, if you vote in a particular party, then you have to bear the consequences of what that party does. It doesn't necessarily mean that they themselves are Amalekites.
Yeah. And, even here with Bibi's quote, you must remember what Amalek has done to you, says our Holy Bible, quoting Deuteronomy. The phrase, remember what Amalek did to you, is used in Holocaust memorials. Okay, great. Right. Do Holocaust memorials imply that each and every German, right down to his ass and his suckling, needs to be exterminated?
No.
Of course not.
But the war was against all of Germany, regardless.
Exactly. So it's utterly absurd. Okay. So, even this 1 Samuel quote, which Bibi did not quote, now go and smite Amalek and utterly destroy all that they have and spare them not, but slay the man, woman.
By the way, I'm not implying, personally, I'm not here implying that all of the Palestinian people have to bear the consequences of what Hamas did. But I'm just trying to say that Isaac Herzog does not mean that all of the Palestinians deserve to be collectively punished either. That's not what is being said by Herzog's remark. I have no doubt that there's some people, like in Otzma Yehudit, that do believe that, but that's not what the establishment of Israel actually endorses.
Yeah, and let's be clear here, I don't endorse Otzma Yehudit and any of these people whatsoever. I won't speak for Adam. But again, of course, they have to truck out Baruch Goldstein, who I will publicly condemn, as I have on many times. And obviously, he is, going to be quoting these biblical exterminatory quotes because he was a Jewish fundamentalist terrorist. One would expect that of him. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, so that's a bit of a problem. They're clutching at straws here by finding every snippet, every comment, and we've gone over this ad nauseum with Bartov already, so we need not do this again.
And you know what? Whenever, comments that are taken from Sinwar or any of the extremists within Hamas, the other side always says, "Oh, you can't let them speak for all of the Palestinian people." But that's exactly what they're doing to Israel. It's like they're taking quotes from Baruch Goldstein, and that's supposed to speak for the entire state of Israel.
Yeah, no, it's a very big problem. It's a really big problem. You read that book Reckless Rights by Elliot Horowitz, a brilliant book about Jewish revenge fantasies and Purim going back centuries. But it's a great book, except at the beginning, he sort of links that up to Baruch Goldstein's terrorist attack on Purim, which I find really to be, kind of dishonest, because Jews were allowed to have revenge fantasies on Purim when they were, being oppressed by the Christians and Muslims in some cases so violently. So this Baruch Goldstein has in many respects become a trope, and I'm not saying that there aren't others like him out there, but it does not represent the nation of Israel in any respect whatsoever. They have a whole paragraph on Bartov. Actually, I think he's mentioned at least 6 times in this article. But, Bartov seems to have been sort of on the fence and wishy-washy at first. But even in November 23, he said the possibility of genocide is staring us in the face. In November 23, barely anything had happened yet at that point. But in May 2024, it is no longer possible to deny that Israel was engaged in systematic war crimes, crimes against humanity, and genocidal actions, while noting that very few people in Israel, apart from Palestinians, were willing to entertain this view. Okay, so Bartov is clearly now serving as evidence for Wikipedia's claim that genocide is in fact being committed.
Why should we care about this Sanford, this Victoria Sanford, and what she says? I mean, I don't.
Victoria Sanford.
It's right, Victoria Sanford, a professor at City University of New York.
Is that in the paragraph that's highlighted here?
Under that one, just directly under it.
Okay, I have never heard of her.
Why should I care? I've never heard of her either. Like I don't care at all. I mean, what about Victoria? I care. Like I should care just as much about Fred Sanford than Victoria Sanford.
Who's Fred Sanford?
I'm Sanford and Son.
Oh, okay, Fred Sanford, right? Yeah, that makes sense. I care just as much about Sherman Hemsley as I do about Victoria Sanford.
Yeah.
So Graduate Center, Victoria Sanford, research interest, genocide, feminicide. I'm not going to go there. Indigenous rights to us, ancestral lands, child soldiers, gangs, organized crime. This is her specialty. She's an anthropologist, I will add, which means she probably, anyways, I'm not going to go there either. So she's the director of the Human Rights of Peace and Studies at the Lehman College. So she's not a specialty on Israel-Palestine whatsoever. She is not a specialist on Jewish issues or on the Middle East. Okay.
Yeah, but Fred Sanford is a specialist in garbology.
Oh, is he?
As he always says, yeah.
Okay, well, good for him. Okay, I don't think I've ever seen Sanford and Son. Maybe one episode in my life. So was that a Norman Lear show?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Okay, Shmuel Liederman. Okay, we don't need all these other people. Bartov is the dangerous one here. Okay, he's the one who carries the most weight here. He's the one that anyone who teaches the Holocaust in any capacity in the United States will have definitely heard of and probably read something of their work. So Middle Eastern studies, obviously, we don't need to. Oh, look, Norman Finkelstein and Ilan Pappé. We don't need to go there. This is Ilan Pappé, someone who has had it in for Israel for decades already at this point.
These are some seriously impartial people they're quoting here. I mean, these people are just really credible. I mean, these are people that are straight down the middle, right?
Yeah.
They will go wherever the evidence takes them.
Sure.
They don't have any axe to grind at all with Israel.
Yeah, the fact that they're ex-Israelis kind of says something too, I think.
Yeah.
Though again, I don't know the reasons for Bartov leaving, but Ilan Pappé is definitely an ex-Israeli from my understanding.
Oh, look, Greta Thunberg.
Oh yeah, where is it? Where do you see? Oh yeah. So first, let's start at the beginning of the sentence.
Okay.
Let's not be like the Germans and put the end of the sentence at the beginning and the beginning at the end. Raz, since we don't want to go there with Germany.
We're Jews. We'll go right to that.
So Raz Segal, who is the person who has co-authored the most pieces with Bartov being out there. He is certainly not as eminent as Bartov. He's a bit of a dimwit, near as I can tell, though some of his books do look interesting. He was offered a job at the University of Minnesota to direct their genocide program, whatever it's called exactly, probably Holocaust and Genocide. And the offer was rescinded over the summer, probably because Raz Segal's textbook genocide verdict. Okay, so he's actually said that this is a textbook genocide. Now, even if this does bear some resemblance to genocides, and it's easy to find resemblances with any event throughout the world. This is not a textbook genocide. It's such an irresponsible
There
thing
is
to
no
say.
such thing as a textbook genocide.
Yeah, though I have argued that the Armenian genocide is a template genocide that we can use as sort of a yardstick.
But that's Jarrod Taney. There's no agreed textbook genocide.
No, everyone agrees with me.
Okay.
You agree with me. So Raz Segal's textbook genocide verdict. Okay, so I mean, this is absurd, right? For him to say this, and he can say it if he wants, but he should not be the director of a Holocaust and genocide center.
They keep changing the definition of genocide. So how could there be a textbook genocide?
Yeah, could you imagine him teaching a class on this, where if this is his template, he's going to start off, okay, this is what genocide is. Let's use Gaza as a model and proceed from there. If he does that, there are currently probably about 20 to 30 genocides taking place in the world at the moment.
They're writing the textbook based on Gaza. They're not deciding Gaza on the basis of a textbook.
Yeah, though I have noticed that the left really does abuse the term genocide. They claim that there is, along with fascism and all these other terms, that it's frequently stated throughout leftist circles and Twitter that there is an ongoing genocide against transgender people. Which, I'm not even going to go there, but genocide, whatever measures that transgender people are suffering at the hands of governments in the United States and Europe, let alone the rest of the world, and they are suffering, it's not a genocide. So
why are they, so here's my, why are they mentioning Greta Thunberg?
Oh, because, she's the best, most important climate activist in the world, and everyone knows that Palestine's a climate justice issue, Adam, get with it. If you can accuse Israel of destroying the environment, then everything else flows from that. The Palestinians are the environment. The Palestinians are the land, right?
The Israelis have restored the environment ever since 48.
Yeah.
So, all right, so climate activist Greta Thunberg, who's what, 20 years old, never finished high school or something like that?
I don't know. Isn't she still in high school? I think she wrote this before her junior prom.
Didn't she leave school to travel
on that boat?
To travel the world and speak out about climate injustice.
Okay, I'm not dissing her work on climate injustice. In fact, I don't know enough about it, and I really don't care to know anything about it. It's not my
BBC football presenter Gary Lineker,
who English sports broadcaster and former professional footballer, is the only player to have been the top goal scorer. So what does his knowledge of genocide stem from? I mean, is he?
I have no idea. I have no idea whatsoever. I mean, he did the play-by-play for the World Cup, right? And I guess that qualifies him.
Well, he did attend the city of Leicester, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, boys' grammar school.
Leicester. It's pronounced Leicester.
It's not Leicester?
No, Leicester.
Okay. Is it pronounced flood or flood when we talk about Al-Aqsa?
Flood.
Okay, the Al-Aqsa flood. Okay, I got it. So, all right. So so clearly, let's not waste our time with this. Okay, this person is completely irrelevant, and I'm not going to go to Guy Lafleur, greatest Montreal Canadian of all time since, at least since Maurice Richard, and ask him for his opinion about Middle Eastern politics. He's also dead, so that wouldn't be very useful either. I think he left the house wearing the red Canadians shirts, and everything stemmed from that. Star Trek fan. So okay. So Greta Thunberg and genocide has been decided. All right. This is what we have here is an extremely problematic article, which would be admittedly far less problematic had they stuck with their original title. Okay, if they say accusations against Israel, all they need in there is a short paragraph saying there is large-scale rejection of this charge, and provide some links to it.
There is no need for that. Even if they're going to do that, there is no need for it, because all they need to do is on the page that deals with the conflict that's ongoing, there could be a section on various perspectives on the conflict and its moral legitimacy, right? Yeah. There could be a part in there about the accusations of genocide against the Israelis, and then another part about it which has Israeli defenders, or defenders of Israel, saying this is not a genocide, this is what the objectives are, and there's no, attempt to commit a genocide. There's no reason to even have a separate page.
Right. They do have, a list of countries that have not recognized it as a genocide, but this is a pretty damning list.
Most of the countries on this list call it a genocide, but admittedly, actually, they do have like the United States and the UK are not calling it a genocide.
Yeah,
There's some countries that are decided not to call it anything and are waiting for more information,
yeah.
right?
Well, forthcoming kind of implies that they are planning on doing it.
Probably, yeah.
But then
But
again, forthcoming in Ireland stated it is not for the court to determine whether genocide is being committed. So that's not forthcoming. It means no. I don't know where they get that from.
there you go.
Trudeau, not that anyone should take Justin Trudeau seriously, said he would watch the case very closely. Yeah, I'm sure you will, Trudeau.
Wait, go to Argentina. What is there's Argentina's not even on here. And
Uh,
the new Argentinian president is very supportive of Israel.
well,
Right?
let's go in there and make an edit. Whoops.
I think that
Page is locked. Yeah,
uh-huh.
the page is locked. Yeah,
You can't edit it.
yeah, this is absurd. This is totalitarianism, if you will. Now,
The point of all this is that Wikipedia is not a real site where you can go to get information.
yeah,
Right. It is a site where you go to get propaganda. And that's it. That's all Wikipedia is. I would trust Wikipedia's information on things that are unrelated to politics and history, right? Like if you want to know about some rock band, and how it came to be and its members and where they grew up, fine. Go to the Wikipedia for that. It's fine. If you want a list of movies that won
yeah, but what
Academy.
if I want to read about Pink Floyd and Roger Waters and he's a militant anti-Semite? It's going
All
to
right, well,
tread into that territory
all
too.
right, well, maybe there's limits too on what I said. But if
Now,
you want to go and you want to find out the list of teams that won the World Series in baseball, fine. Wikipedia is fine for
yeah, but
that.
didn't the Jews fix the World Series back in 1919?
Yeah, that's true. That
It's
was
all going to lead back to the Jews, Adam.
wasn't that Arnold Rothstein that did
Well, there you
that?
go. And
Right.
it's going to be a Jewish controlled. It's an example of Jews taking over the great American
Well, I
past.
guess you've got me there. Like, there's absolutely no topic, no article on Wikipedia where you can trust their information.
Yeah, it's Wokepedia.
No,
Yeah,
I'm not going to Wikipedia. Good one. Yeah, I like that.
yeah,
But
it's going to be in our title too.
I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this, but just one example.
Okay, no, there's one that but I know where you're going. But before we go there, just to finish off here, because we're not going to dissect the entire Wikipedia page on the Arab-Israeli conflict. We do, in the earlier part of this video, talk about Hamas in the page, but I just want to show you just one page here. 2023 Hamas-led attack on Israel. I mean, why can't they use, I'm not saying necessarily genocide, but there is genocidal intent in Hamas's charter. Why can't they, in the title, much as they do with the Gaza genocide title, make it abundantly clear what this was, right? This was an Islamic terrorist mass killing operation against Jews, the largest one endured by Jews since the Holocaust. Admittedly, that's a little bit long for a title.
Call the article the Al-Aqsa Flood.
The Al-Aqsa Flood. Okay, the Al-Aqsa Flood, yeah.
That's what there's
the Al-Aqsa Flood against Yahud, as they like to call the Jews. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, so Adam, you have an example for us? I'm going to turn off screen share.
Well, I mean, this has nothing whatsoever to do with the issue of Israel, but just for example,
Adam, if you've learned anything from this episode, everything has to do with Israel.
That's true. Okay, so maybe it does. I'm not exactly clear yet how, but so in the topic of the Swift boats have come up again over the last week or week and a half because of Tim Walz, the running mate to Kamala Harris, having his military service record questioned and accused of distorting the facts of it and where he went to combat and when and what rank he rose to and all that. So there is he's being called the accusers are being compared with the Swift boaters, the Swift boat Veterans for Truth back in 2004, and because of people making that comparison, there's been a lot of people that have been actually looking at Wikipedia's page on the Swift boat Veterans for Truth. And so if you go to that page, you will then discover, as I've actually known for quite some time, because the mainstream media has decided, they decided this a long time ago, that there is no question that the Swift Boat Veterans for Truth was nothing but a scam operation that was completely politically motivated, that they were liars, and that they were working entirely on behalf of Republican Party operatives for George W. Bush back in 2004, and have been completely discredited. But then on Wikipedia, they make it sound like they've been completely discredited, right? Like there's absolutely nothing whatsoever about the Swift boaters that was entirely was at all accurate. And actually, a few days ago, the Wikipedia's article on it was a lot worse than it is now. But apparently, there have been some people that have gone in, as you and I did with Omer Bartov, and have made some changes, right? And actually, these people made a lot more
Actually,
substantial.
were you one of them, Adam? You could admit it.
I was not. No, I had nothing to
Oh,
do.
you've been banned, right? I forgot. Yeah.
I haven't been banned. No, I have nothing to do with it. But if you look in the talk section on Wikipedia under the Swift boating, because a lot of this was changed back, right? Over the last day and a half, they changed it back to a lot of the original language that speaks of it as, the Swift boaters as nothing but liars and charlatans. So there's been an argument in the talk section about it and how, they have not been discredited. Look, the notion that the ads against Kerry have been, according to this entry, discredited is total garbage, right? Look, that's true. It's not total garbage. It's true that maybe they went a bit too far, that some of the things that they accused Kerry of were not true, and they kind of had to backtrack on it, and the media caught them on some of that, or maybe they were just not aware that some of the things they said were not true, but they got a lot right too. And the proof of the fact that they got a lot right was the fact that every time an ad came out from the Swift boaters, John Kerry had to backtrack on something he said. He had to admit that he had misspoke or distorted things, right? So look, where I'm going with this is not to litigate the question of whether or not the Swift boaters are liars or charlatans.
Yeah, but it does sound like you're relitigating the Bush era.
My point is entirely that you can't trust Wikipedia, because Wikipedia is not giving two sides on an issue that has two sides.
And one thing to be clear here, because this is what a lot of people would say with justified trepidation, that Wikipedia can't be trusted because any idiot could go on there and edit it, and we're a perfect example.
And lock you out too.
Yeah, the point is that Wikipedia's editors clearly have a bias. And I forgot to mention this when we looked at the Gaza genocide page, but apparently it was extremely split. The majority voted in favor of renaming it Gaza genocide, but it was a very slim majority. There were a handful of editors that were very outspokenly against doing it. So I read an article.
And I will also say that someone, I don't know if this, I don't remember if we mentioned this in the other footage that we recorded or not, but one of the main perpetrators in locking us out of the Omer Bartov page is someone that was given a high award from the Jordanian government.
Yeah, we've spent a half an hour. We spent 20 minutes deconstructing that. Yeah, so I rewatched the footage just to be sure.
Okay.
Yeah, so we did it. Yeah. All right. Are you done with relitigating Bush?
I have finished my Grishrei on the Swift boating.
Okay. All right. Well, if you are in the market for a Swift boat or a speedboat and want to drive through the sinkhole of Youngstown,
it'd be a PT boat even,
yeah, or a dinghy.
Yeah.
In Youngstown, Adam is your man. He will take you out wearing a red shirt.
Yes, we've got here in landlocked Youngstown, we've got plenty of water. There's potholes filled up after a hard rain. We can go boating in that if you want to.
Awesome. All right.
Yeah.
Are you going to wear the red shirt though?
I'll wear the red shirt.
But why would anyone get on a boat with you wearing a red shirt, given the whole Star Trek trope?
I don't know. You've got a point there. You got me.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that wraps up this episode. Adam has to go shave, so we're going to end it. We won't record any post-shave footage, but I think we've seen enough of him without the facial hair to.
But the next episode that we record, I'm sure that Jarrod will have his hair, his beard grown out.
Oh no, this is my new look. I think I'm going to stick with it for a while.
All right.
I put a fresh blade on my razor, and it should be good for a few weeks. All right, so that is all for today, and this is us signing off.
You off. Goodbye.
Bye.